G, compute the transaction of that supported threshold thing, right? Support count in transaction.
See, we have a large database which cannot be fit into the memory. Hence, we are going for partitioning our transactions. Okay. So once we have the part of transaction memory, we apply a priori. So for that, we are getting the frequent item sets. So they are frequent items for that partition, not for your entire database, isn't it? Aim is to find the frequent set based on your entire database, not on the partial. Okay, that's the reason in the first phase we are trying to find the frequent item for each partition. Now they become our candidate set because they are frequent in the one or more than one partition. They may be frequent overall, or they may not be frequent, that we don't know. Hence they become our candidate item sets. So
Okay,
then
ma'am.
what we do is we take all the items of same size from all the partitions and we club together as the candidate item. If C1 of G means they are the global candidate item set of size 1. We combine all our L1s together from all the partitions and we are going to get the candidate items of size 1. Similarly, we will be having C2, C3, C4, etc. All are global candidate item sets now. The idea is, suppose if any of the item set, if it is not frequent in any of the partitions, definitely it cannot be frequent overall, isn't it? The moment
Yes.
something is frequent in any one of the partition, it may or it may not be frequent overall. That's the reason we call it as the candidate item set. So once we have the candidate item set, in the second phase, again second time we scan the database to count the support of these candidates to get the global can frequent item sets. Is this clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So basically I told you just refer to the algorithm whatever I have given you and you can just trace. You can create your own databases of small, right? Some around 4 to 5 transactions with 2 or 3 or 4 items and you can just try to trace. Until unless you don't trace the algorithms on your own, it is difficult to understand. That's the reason I'm telling you, you attend the class, have a notebook with you, try to understand what I'm telling, right? So I'm spending sufficient amount of time on each of the slides. So you have enough time to note down. When I'm tracing, you can also write it down.
Yes, ma'am. I have written it down.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any other doubts? Previous class? Okay, if there are no more doubts, let me start with today's class.
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah,
Can we get the slides?
I told you in the previous class, right? I'm not getting any responses during my regular class. Okay, so I've given you the ebook, and from the same book I am referring and I'm discussing the algorithms. And also there are certain algorithms which are not correct in the textbook. So that I have corrected, and for that I'm giving you enough time to note down in your book. Okay, so you need to attend the classes regularly. You need to be attentive in the class. Note down the things in your notebook the way you used to do in your regular class, because I am concerned that whether people are learning or not. It is just that it are logging, because it is difficult for us to verify all 150 to 160 people whether you are really there or listening or not, by asking you to switch on your videos and all those things. It is difficult, and it is not efficient also for me to do these kinds of things. Okay, so we want, and also many a time whenever I ask any question, there is not even a single response I'm getting. Yeah, so that's the thing I told you. You need to maintain a notebook and you need to note down the things or the points. And if you have doubts, you can go, and anyway the recording is available, right? You can go back and you can check the recordings. And still, if you have doubts, you can ask me during that contact hour, or maybe just before the class, right? Because 15 minutes before your regular class, I'll be logging in. Like today somebody asked me the doubt. Similarly, you can ask me, and I want you to study regularly and not before. I don't encourage studying before your assignments or tests or exam, 1 or 2 days before your tests and exams. I want you to study regularly. That's the reason I told you I'm not sharing the PPT now. Okay. And moreover, PPT will be having only some points, isn't it? And we're explaining those points. So only referring to the PPT points or writing the points as it is also of no use, because you don't get the explanation. Anyway, for that you need to read the textbook also. And one more thing is, I want you to at least develop an habit of reading. Okay, an ebook has been already shared with you all at Anand Campbell, and certain portions we are referring to Arun Pujari. Okay, so the next algorithm is pincer search. Again, this algorithm is not available in Anand Campbell. It is from the Arun Pujari textbook. But again, there are slight mistakes or typo errors in that algorithm in the textbook. Okay, so whatever the algorithm I'm showing you, I want you please note down in your notebook, because until unless you don't have something in your notebook algorithms, it is difficult for you to trace the algorithm. That's the reason I'm telling you. I want you to have all the algorithms in your notebook. Okay. So we started the algorithms which help us in finding the frequent items with the a priori algorithm. So as you all know, by this time it's a bottom up or breadth first search algorithm. We start with all the one item set, then two item set, then three item set, and so on. So here the number of database scans or database passes, it depends upon what is the largest frequent item set available in the database. Suppose if the largest frequent item set is 10, in that case we would have performed 10 plus 1, that is 11 database scans or 11 database passes. And because of this the performance decreases. And then we discussed in the last class about the partitioning algorithm. It is nothing but applying the a priori on different partitions of the database if the database is very large. There was no improvement in the algorithm as such. It was just the application of a priori whenever the database is very huge, which cannot be fit into the memory. Now, this pincer search is a kind of a, you can say, improvement over the a priori algorithm. How it can be a solution for the problems that we have seen in a priori. So it's a bidirectional search. In a priori, what we did is it's a one direction, right? First all the one item set, then two item set. We are moving from bottom to top. We are moving in only one direction. So here pincer search, the idea is why to go in for only one directional search, why not bi-directional? So here they try to search the frequent items based on both top down as well as the bottom up. So we are trying to search for the frequent items by searching two ways. So then find the frequent item sets by bottom up and maintain list of maximal frequent item set. So bottom up here, it is again same as a priori. Top down is also again, that's the reason I told you, it is very important to understand the a priori algorithm. Okay. Here also we are using the a priori, but we are using simultaneously, we are applying it simultaneously in both the direction. So you can see here. So if it is a bottom up search, what we do, suppose let us say that we have 5 items, item 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So what do we do in a priori? We take these individual items, right, first. Then we scan the database to check the support of these individual items. And then we compare the support with that of the minimum support threshold. Suppose if, some example, if you come to know that the item 5 is not frequent and 1, 2, 3, 4 are frequent, then what we do in a priori, we leave these item 5 and we construct the items of size 2 by using these items, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 are L1, that is the frequent one item set. We don't use this. Why we are not carrying? Because we know that if any item or item set is not frequent, then definitely its superset also cannot be a frequent one. That's the idea. That's how we are going to reduce the number of item sets. So here if 1, 2, 3, 4 is L1, using 1, 2, 3, 4 we generate this C2, that is candidate item of size 2 as shown here. Again count the support of this, then compare with the threshold, then whatever are the frequent, that becomes our L3 and so on. So finally this 1, 2, 3, 4 is a frequent item set, maximal frequent item set. This is by using the bottom up search. Suppose instead of bottom up search, what happens if we start searching from the top, not from the single item, but from the top? So this is something similar to the top down. Assuming that we have 5 unique items, so we consider to begin with this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as our candidate item set. Then we scan the database to check the support of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 together. Is there any transactions which contains all these 5 items? And then we compare that with the minimum threshold. If it is greater than minimum threshold, it means that this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a frequent item. The moment we know that this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a frequent item, then definitely all its subsets have to be frequent items, right? So our algorithm stops at one single go, we are able to find. But in general, in reality, when you are having thousands of items in your shop or mall, in reality, no customer is going to purchase all the items that are available in a mall. So it cannot be a frequent, right? So what we do is next, if it is frequent, we are done. If it is not frequent, what we do is we determine all its subsets of size 1 less than this. So here the size of item set is 5. We compute or determine all the subset of this with size 4. So subsets are 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 4, 5 and so on. You can see here, right? So there are the, that's the reason we call it as a top down. So here what we do, we take single item, then we form its superset. In the top down, we first get the superset, then we are trying to form its subsets. Okay. Now, these are all the proper subsets of size 4 for this given item. Now again repeat the same thing. Again scan the database and count the support of all these 5 items. So in this example, we're assuming that this 1, 2, 3, 4 happens to be a frequent one. How it is frequent? After computing its support, we compare the support with the minimum support threshold. And if we see that if it is greater than the threshold, it is frequent. So we know the moment we know this is a frequent, then no need to check for its subsets further, because if any item set is frequent, then all its subset should be frequent. So no need to check. So we can avoid checking all its subsets in the further steps. So we stop here. We see that 1, 2, 3, 4 is frequent, and hence all its subsets. What are the subsets? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, then 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 2, 4, then 3, 4, then 1, 2, 3, 4, right? These are all the subsets. All will be frequent. Then these 4 items as what you are seeing here, they are not frequent, but their subsets may be frequent, they may not be frequent, that we don't know, right? So since they are not frequent, we further go one step down. So for these items, we form their subsets of size 3. For example, if you consider this 1, 2, 3, 5. Its subsets are 1, 2, 5. It is written here. Then 1, 3, 5. Right? Then 2, 3, 5. Similarly, we write the subsets of all these items that you are able to see here. Again, repeat the procedure. Scan the database to count the support of each of these items. If any item is frequent, then we stop there. We don't check for its subsets. If it is not frequent, then we go one step down further. So in this case, again, they are not frequent. So we go one step down further. Now we construct the subsets of size 2. These are the subsets of size 2. Again, scan the database to count the support of these. So now they are not the frequent. Again, we go down. Okay, so you can see here this one, and it's the same example we have taken. If you perform only bottom-up search, the way we used to do in the a priori, these are the number of scans which we need to do to get the final answer. Again, for the same database, if we apply top-down, the number of steps remain more or less the same. So bottom-up, what happens? If an item set is infrequent, we don't generate its superset. If item set is frequent, then we generate its superset. Here it is the reverse one. If the item is not frequent, only then we generate its subsets. The moment an item is frequent, then we don't further go dig into its subset, because we know that item set which is frequent, it means all its subsets should be frequent. Here, if an item set is infrequent, all its supersets should be infrequent. So we avoid the superset of this infrequent item. Here, we avoid the subset of frequent item set, right? So either it is purely bottom up or purely top down, it is more or less remains the same. That's the reason pincer search, what they thought is, why not apply bottom up and then top down simultaneously. So how we can do this? Again, it's the same example. So bottom up, it's again same as a priori. We count the support of each of these individual items. Okay. At the same time, we also count the support of this item. That's how it becomes bidirectional. First, we have all the individual items from the bottom up. For the top down, to begin with, we have all the item set as one item. So when we count the support of this item, we also count the support of this one. Okay. Now, bottom up, we know this is not a frequent. So we move to the second step. So we are going to construct this subset of this, and we are not going to form the superset of this 5, because we know that this is infrequent, right? This is the step what we do here. Simultaneously, what we do, because this is not a frequent, we go for subset of this item set. subset of size 4, and we are going to generate all these item sets of size 4. So second step, what is happening? We are generating the superset of these frequent item set, and we also generate the subset of this infrequent item set. So together we have this one and this one. Then the next step what we do is we generate the 3 item sets from the bottom up. At the same time here in the second step we come to know that this one is a frequent. So because this one is a frequent, now we are avoiding this from our bottom up approach. We are stopping here. Okay. And here what happens, because 5 is infrequent, whatever the subset we generated here in the second step, so all of them they contain 5. Through the bottom up search, in the first step, we have the information that 5 is infrequent. That information is used in the top down search. So in the second step, we know all of this, they are containing 5, and we don't require to construct all these. So because we are doing this bidirectional, you can see that, so no need to generate these items which are shown in a ellipse or the right. So that is the advantage of using bidirectional search, and that's what is exactly done by this pincer search algorithm. This is the algorithm. I'll give you some time. Please note down this algorithm in your notebook. Arun Pujari, there are certain typos. So if you trace that, you are going to get incorrect answer. This I have corrected. How have I corrected? I have gone to the paper proposed by the authors. The authors who proposed the pincer search algorithm. I have referred that original paper and I have understood that paper. From that paper, I am giving you this pseudocode or the algorithm. Okay. So please note down this in your notebook. I'll explain the algorithm to you later. First, you note down this. Over all of you, have you noted down this algorithm in your notebook?
No, ma'am, I'm still writing.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in a priori, we were using the notation C for candidate and L for frequent. The same notation we are using here also. Since it is bidirectional, we require some different notations for the top-down approach, right? So for that we have these two. So MFCS means maximal frequent candidate set and MFS is maximal frequent set. Okay, so maximal frequent set means a set from the top down approach. If you are getting any item as a frequent, it means it's a maximal and it is a frequent set. It is similar to your L from the bottom up. Similarly, from the bottom up approach, we use the notation CK, right, to denote that C is the candidate item set. So here it is called as MFCS from the top down, maximal frequent candidate set. So let us start this algorithm. So L naught. So L is a frequent item set. So right now we don't know what are all the frequent item set. Hence we are initializing it to null. It's a empty set to begin with. Then this K is 1. So C1 is candidate item sets of size 1. So C1 is I such that I belongs to capital I. Capital I means it's a database, transactional database. So all the unique items we need to identify, that becomes our C1 or candidate item set of size 1. The same thing we did in a priori. Then S naught. So we are using S here to represent the infrequent item set. Okay, L is to denote frequent item set, whereas this S is to denote the infrequent item set. Again, we don't know what are all the infrequent item sets, hence it is empty. Then MFCS, it's a maximal frequent candidate set. Okay, C1 is individual items from for the bottom up. For the top down, we require all the elements. So hence MFCS contains all our items. Then MFS is maximal frequent set. Again, we don't know what are all the frequent sets in the top-down approach, and hence it's also null. So this is our initialization part of the algorithm. Okay. Then while CK is not empty, right now K is 1. So C1, okay, C1 is having all the individual unique item sets and C1 is not empty. So that's how we enter into this loop for the first time. Then what we do? Read database and count support for CK. This is what we used to do in a priori, right? Once we have C1, we used to read the database and we used to count the support of each individual item that is present in C1. Now, along with that, what we are doing is we also try to find the support count for these items that are present in MFCS. This is for the top down. That's why I'm telling you it's a bi-directional. Simultaneously, we are trying to use a priori from the bottom up as well as from the top down also. So this is same as your a priori. Anyway, we are reading the database. So while reading the database, we also see, do we have any transactions which supports the item that are present in this? If yes, we increment the counter. Okay. So this step is taken care of. We are reading the database and we are counting the support of C1 and the MFCS. Now, once we scan the database and we have the support of these two. Next, what we do is remove frequent item sets from MFCS and add them to MFS. This is from the top down. Okay. Suppose if any of the items in this MFCS, if it becomes frequent, how do we know it becomes frequent? Because now we have the support count of items that are there in MFCS. If the support count is more than the threshold, it means it is a frequent set, right? So we are moving it from MFCS to MF Yes. At the same time, for the bottom-up approach, what we are doing, we also have the count of this CK. So what are the items that are frequent in this CK that we are moving into LK? LK is frequent K item set. In the beginning, K is 1, so we will be having L1. All the items that are present in CK and whose support is more than the threshold support, they will be the part of this LK. Then the remain, this we used to do in a priori, right? Bottom up. Once you read the database, once you get the support count of C1, we move the frequent item sets into L1. The same thing we are doing here. In addition to that, the items which are not frequent, we are moving them into another set called as SK. As I told you, we are using this S to denote the infrequent item sets. Here S1 contains all the infrequent item sets that are present in CK. All the frequent sets of CK will be moved to LK. Infrequent would be there in SK. Fine. So this is same thing whatever we used to do in a priori. First read the database, count the support of C1, move the frequent items into L1. Now along with that what we are doing, we also try to get the support of this MFCS. If something is frequent, move it to MFS. Fine. So after this we are telling call MFCS gen algorithm if SK is not equal to empty. Again it is for the top down. That is, here we have the infrequent item set. It's telling that call this MFCS generation if SK is not empty. As I told, it's a top down, right? If this is empty, it means there are no infrequent items. If there are no infrequent items, there is no point in generating the subsets of MFCS, right? So if there are some items which are infrequent, it means that in the top down, we need to determine its subsets. That's the reason this condition we are giving. In the next slide, I'll show you how to generate this. Okay, here just understand that we are trying to generate all the subsets. I'll just go back here. Okay, this one. So here this is our C1 and this is our MFCS. What we are doing, we are reading the database and we are counting the support of this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So then we'll come to know that from C1, these are all the frequent item sets. So this becomes our L1 and this 5 becomes our S1. Okay. Next it tells that if any these item sets are frequent, move it to MFS. Now this is not frequent, so we cannot move anything into MFS. So now we know that this is infrequent, we have something, so we need to generate the subset of this one. That's what we are trying to do here. So if it is not empty, use the MFCS generation algorithm to determine the subset. Then MFS is MFS union frequent item sets in MFCS. So once you do this, if you find that any of the sets that are frequent and that are present in MFCS, we are moving that to MFS. Why are we doing this? Because MFCS means candidate item sets, right? Candidate in the sense they may be frequent, they may not be frequent, that we don't know. But suppose the moment we come to know something is frequent, we cannot call it as a candidate item. So that's the reason we need to shift it from MFCS to MFS here. After this, we call one more function called as MFS pruning procedure. Again, I'll show you in the next slides what is this MFS pruning procedure. So in the MFS pruning, what we do basically is we check all the items that are present in LK. Okay, then if any of the subset, if it is there in the current MFS, then we remove those from LK. That's what we do in MFS pruning procedure. So after MFS pruning, we generate CK plus 1 from LK. Again, this is for the bottom up. So we have L1 with us. Using L1, we generate C2. It's same as our a priori join function. Okay. Then if any frequent item set in LK is removed in MFS pruning procedure, it means when we call this function, if we have removed any items from the LK, then only we need to call one more function called as the recovery function. Otherwise, we are not calling this recovery function. And suppose if this is not true, then we don't do this, we come to this step. So here what we are doing, call MFCS prune procedure to prune the candidates in CK plus 1. In MFCS prune, what we do is we check all the items that are present in CK plus 1. And if any of its subset, if it is not present in MFCS, then we remove it from the CK. That's what we do in MFCS prune procedure. Then increment K, then again go back to while, again check whether CK is empty or not. If not empty, again enter. So this we keep on repeating till our candidate item set becomes empty. So once this is done, answer is U stands for union here. Union of K, it means whatever the case we have found, right? All L case, L1, L2, L3. So whatever the frequent item set that we are able to find out within this while loop. So we are performing union of all those things to get our final answer. What is the final answer? It has to be a all frequent item sets of all possible size. Along with that, we also say union MFS. MFS is maximum frequent set that we are getting from the top down. LK we are getting frequent item set from our bottom up. So together we are combining the frequent item set that we are able to get from the bottom up search and the frequent item set that we are able to get from the top down search. So together it gives us the final answer. Now I'll show you these algorithms. Yeah, I'll just tell you why I had to change this. Okay, because here we have a condition, right? If LK it comes, but in Arun Pujari he has mixed up this LKs and CKs. That's the reason there are slight errors in this part. Okay, for example, this LK, it is not given in Arun Pujari, but we require LK, isn't it? We require LK for the bottom up search. So I've added this one here, and also this he is not added. That's why I have given this in the comment. This means that after calling this function, if you are able to find any of the items that are frequent and that are present here, we need to move it to MFA. So this statement is not there in the textbook. Then generate CK plus 1 from, it says CK. Okay, and it says similar to a priori. Is it possible to generate C2 from C1? No, right? A priori what we are doing? We are generating CK plus 1 using LK always. So it is not CK. So that's the reason I have corrected here it as LK. Then again it says that if any frequent item sets in CK is removed. Because MFS contains the frequent items, it cannot be CK, it has to be LK. That's the reason CK have replaced here by LK. These are the corrections. Now this is MFCS, right? I told you I'll be explaining this MFCS generation, then this MFS pruning, then this recovery, and then MFCS prune. So we have 4 functions which we are calling here. This is the main algorithm. These are the 4 functions. I'll explain you these one by one. To begin with, MFCS gen algorithm. Please note down this algorithm. I'll give you 2 minutes. Note down this entire thing. Done? Did you write? So it's a function MFCS generation algorithm for all item sets S in SK. So this might look like complicated to you, but it's very simple to understand provided you know how the nested loops work. Okay, this is nothing but simple for loop and a if condition, right? So for all item set S in SK. So what is SK? SK is the set of all infrequent item set. So S is an index, small s is an index into this SK. So we consider each of the infrequent items one by one. Then, so please note this indentation. You need to write down similarly, otherwise it is not possible for you to understand our trace. Okay, either given the brackets, we have followed this indentation. So this for loop is within this one. Okay, so once we take S from SK, then for all item sets M in MFCS, so we have MFCS with us from the top down direction, and this M is a pointer or the index pointing to this MFCS. Then after this we come inside the for loop, we check for a condition. If S is a subset of M, what is S? S is the first item set in SK and M is the first item set in this MFCS. So we are checking if S is a subset of M. If so, what we are doing, MFCS equal to MFCS divided by this M. So we are removing this M from this MFC. Yes. After this, we have one more for loop here. For all items, please note this, these are all happening within this for loop. Okay. So after we do this step, then we are coming here. For all items E in item set yes. So this is yes. So yes may be having more than one item also, right? So for that purpose, E is acting as an index into this yes. So we consider individual items from this yes. Then what we do? We check here. If M divided by E, if it is not a subset of any item set in the MFCS, we perform this M by E and we check that with this MFCS. So if the result of this is not a subset of any item set that is present in MFCS, then we are doing this step. MFCS equal to MFCS union M divided by E. After this, again we'll go back to this step. Again we'll see this. Okay, that's how we keep on repeating these steps. Just one simple example to understand this function. Suppose assume that our MFCS is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for all item sets M in MFCS, now we have only one item in MFCS, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and M will also contain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because M is indexed into MFCS. You can see here M is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if I assume that this SK contains many items and the first item in this SK is this set 1, 4. So the small s is pointing to the first item 1, 4. So S is 1, 4, M is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, S is 1, 4 and here M is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and my MFCS is also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if S is a subset of M, so what is this? S is 1, 4, M is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we are checking whether S is subset of M. In this case, this is 1, 4, right? 1, 4 is subset of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So condition is true. So if this is true, what are we doing? MFCS is MFCS divided by M. So what is our MFCS? I told you MFCS is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and M is also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It cancels and our MFCS becomes empty. So MFCS is empty now. After this step, then we come here for all item sets E in item set S. What is this? S is 1, 4 and E is acting as an index into this S. So you can see here written E equal to 1, E equal to 4, right? E is an index. So first time E will be having this first value 1. So for all items E in item set, yes, what we are doing? If M by E, first we need to look for this result of this M by E. So E is 1. So find out M by E. What is M? M is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So please note here that MFCS is updated. MFCS equal to MFCS by M, and M was just an index into MFCS. M is having this value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and nowhere we are updating the value of M here. Only MFCS is getting changed here. So the value of M still remains the same, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the value of E is 1. So M divided by E. M is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 divided by what is E? E is 1. So if we divide this 1 and this one cancel and we are left with 2, 3, 4, 5. So the result of this M divided by E is 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So if M by E is not a subset of any item set in the MFCS. So once we determine M by E, once we have the result of M by E, we need to check that result, whether it is a subset of any item that is present in MFCS. Right now MFCS is empty here. Okay. So MFCS is empty. Hence this M by E, that is 2, 3, 4, 5 is not a subset of this. So not a subset of MFCS. So if it is not a subset, then what we are doing? We are coming to this step. What is this? MFCS equal to MFCS union this. So MFCS equal to MFCS. What is MFCS? MFCS is empty. Union. What is that union? M divided by E. So result of M by E is 2, 3, 4, 5. So MFCS union with M by E. So this MFCS is empty. Union with 2, 3, 4, 5. We are going to get 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's how our MFCS gets the item 2, 3, 4, 5. Then this is done. Again we'll come here, right? This is a follow bit. Says for all items C in item set, yes. So first E was having 1. Now E points to this item 4. Again repeat the same thing now. Now E is 4. So check for M divided by E. Again M is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Because nowhere we have changed the value of M. You can observe here. Okay. So we are performing by E and we are checking whether it's subset of MFCS or not, but we are not changing M anyway. Hence M still remains to be as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and the E value is now 4. So 4 if you remove here, we'll get the result as 1, 2, 3, 5. So M by E now is 1, 2, 3, 5. Check whether it's a subset of MFCS. So what is MFCS now? MFCS is 2, 3, 4, 5. And this 1, 2, 3, 5 is not a subset of this MFCS. Okay. So if it is not a subset, we are performing this step. What is this? MFCS is MFCS union M by E. So MFCS is MFCS. What is MFCS now? It is 2, 3, 4, 5 union M by E. M by E is 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay. So 2, 3, 4, 5 union 1, 2, 3, 5 gives us this MFCS. So updated MFCS is 1, 2, 3, 5 and 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see now we are coming from our top down approach. So in the top down we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since this was not a frequent, in the top down next step we are supposed to generate all its subset of size 4, isn't it? So now we can see we are able to generate 2 subsets of size 4 from this. Similarly, if we continue, we would be able to generate all other subsets of this item set. Okay, that's why we are calling it as MFCS gen algorithm. We are trying to generate the maximal frequent candidate sets. Is this clear? This algorithm, MFCS gen, we are trying to generate the maximal frequent candidate sets. I'll just go back and show you. Okay, so this was the MFCS. Since MFCS is not frequent, next step we are supposed to generate all its subsets of size 4. Okay, so these things can be generated by using or by calling this MFCS gen algorithm, and that's what we did here. So next is we have recovery algorithm. So please note down this recovery. Again, textbook has given us for all item sets L in CK, but L is a frequent item set, right? So it should be LK and not CK. So these are corrected here. So please note down this recovery pseudocode or the algorithm. Over. So this is the recovery algorithm. What it says is for all items L in LK. Again, LK consists of all the frequent item set from our bottom up direction, and the small l is used as an index into this LK. So for all items M in MFS. So MFS is from the top down, we have maximum frequent item set, and this M is index into this. If the first k minus 1 items in L are also in M, what does it mean? From the top down, if you're able to know that some item set is frequent, that will be in MFS. And from the bottom up, we have LK with us. So what we are doing, if the first k minus items in L are also in M, it means some items we are taking in LK. If the first k minus 1 items in LK is also in MFS, then we are trying to combine those two items and we are trying to generate the new candidate item set. That's exactly we were doing a priori also. We compare two items for the first k minus 1 position, right? If the item set size is k, we compare all the k minus 1. If all k minus 1 are same, then we check the last item. If it is less than the item in the other, then we are going to combine them to get the new candidate item, and we are trying to do the same thing. We are trying to generate the new item and we are adding that into our CK plus 1. So what is the meaning of this? For I from j plus 1 to m, length of m. So what is m? M is in MFS, maximum frequent set. So we take the length of that. So I from j plus 1 to m. And what is j? We assume that m dot item j equal to L dot item k minus 1. So what is M? M is pointing to this MFS. L is we are taking from this LK. Okay. So if these notations are, if these indexes are confusing to you, you can just think that we have the items in LK as well as in MFS, and we are checking whether any two items are exactly same except the last item. If so, we try to combine them and get a new candidate item set. Okay. So L dot item 1, L dot till up to K. So whatever L is there, because up to K minus 1 they are the same, then we write the last item of L also and followed by the last item of this M. This is nothing but similar to your a priori candidate generation algorithm. We have L with there, what we do? We perform the join with respect to the same set to generate the new item set. Here they are not the same set, they are in the different set. Okay, one item is in LK, one item is in MFS. So we are simply checking this. Is there any possibility of generating new item, new candidate item set? If possible, we generate, otherwise we are not generating. So we are checking the condition if the first K minus 1 items in L are also in M. So then we write the first K minus 1 items as it is. Then suppose if we know that the last item of L is less than the last item of this M, then we write the last item of that L followed by last item of M. This is what we do in a priori join procedure. So same thing is happening here also. Suppose, assume that we have this L2, just to understand this, L2 is 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 5, 2, 3 and 2, 5. And before recovery in the algorithm, we are calling MFS prune function. I told you that any item set that is there in L2, if it's also there in MFS, we are going to remove such items from this L. Okay. So this is L2 after performing MFS prune. Now if I assume that there is some item set 2, 4 which is there in MF, yes, because MF is having 2, 4, we have removed the 2, 4 from this L2, and that's why I'm telling you this is my L2 after MFS prune. MFS prune, what we are doing? Any item set that is there in this L2 or any LK. If it is subset of MFS, we remove that or delete that from L2. So we are assuming that we have MFS with this item 2, 4, and this 2, 4 was also a part of L2. Because this was same here, we have removed that from L2 and this is L2 after MFS prune. Now because we have removed this, so how do we get C3? We get C3 by this L2, isn't it? Suppose if we wouldn't have removed this 2, 4, then what was our C3? C3 is, we'll combine 1, 2, 1, 3 to get 1, 2, 3. We'll combine 1, 2, 1, 5 to get 1, 2, 5. Then we combine 1, 3, 1, 5 to get 1, 3, 5. Then suppose if I assume that 2, 4 is here, then we get 2, 3 and 2, 4. The candidate is 2, 3, 4. Then 2, 3, 2, 5 gives us 2, 3, 5. Then 2, 4 and 2, 5 gives us 2, 4, 5. Okay. Now because we have removed this 2, 4 from L2, we are going to miss the items 2, 3, 4 and 2, 4, 5. We are not able to generate those items. That's why we are calling them as the recovery. If any item set is removed from LK in MFS prune, only then we are calling this recovery function. So now we have removed this. So we are going to miss out the candidates 2, 3, 4 and 2, 4, 5. Okay, that's I told you we are generating C3 from this. So we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 5 and 2, 3, 5, right? Without calling the recovery function, if I have this L2, from L2 I'm getting this C3. Now using recovery, what can be done? Let us see this now. For all item sets L in L, K. These are the item sets. So L is a small L is indexed into this. To begin with, L points to 1, 2. Okay. For all items M in MFS. Right now MFS is having only one item 2, 4. So small m points to this 2, 4. If the first k minus items in L are also in M, so L is 1, 2. MFS is M is 2, 4. So first item is 1. Here it is not matching. So we don't do this. We continue. We come to this next item. L becomes 1, 3. Again compare 1, 3 with 2, 4. This is 1 here, this is not matching, right? Then again 1, 5 with 2, 4 also not matching. So we are not at all doing all these things because the condition is false. Next, when small l becomes 2, 3 and then MFS is having 2, 4. Okay, so you can see first k minus 1 items. K is 2 because size is 2 here. So this is 2, this is 2. They are same and this 3 is less than this 4. Hence, you can see here MFS is 2, 4 and L2 is 2, 3. It's possible for us to generate a new candidate 2, 3, 4. Next, small l points to this 2, 5. Again you check, compare 2, 4 and 2, 5. It's possible for us to generate 2, 4, 5. That's how we are able to, that's why we cut the recovery. We are able to get back the candidate item set, which otherwise we wouldn't have been able to generate. So because we have removed this in the MFS prune procedure, is there any possibility, is there any chance that we are not able to get all candidate items? And just to ensure that we are calling this recovery function. And we're able to recover these two items. So 2, 3 and 2, 4 gives us 2, 3, 4. 2, 4 and 2, 5 gives us 2, 4, 5. That's how this loop works. Okay. With the first k minus items in L are also in M. So first k minus 1 item. Here k is 2. We need to check only the first item. Okay. You can see for these three it was false. This is the if condition. If this is false, we are not doing this. If this is true, here it became true. Then we are doing this. For I from j plus, so what we are assuming, m dot item j equal to L dot item k minus 1. It means 2 and this 2, okay, are the same. Then what we are doing, ck plus 1, that is the candidate item. C, this is our C3. C3 is C3 union this item. What is this? L dot item 1 up to k. So that's the reason we are writing this. This is small l now. 2 and 3 we are writing, followed by m dot item I. What is m dot item I? That is this 4. That's how we are going to get this 2, 3, 4. Similarly, when small l points to 2, 5, ms is 2, 4, we are going to get this. So these two are going to become the part of ck because it says ck plus 1 equal to ck plus 1 union this. Okay, this was our C3. So now C3 is union these two, and hence you can see these two items are there after recovery. Okay, any doubts here?
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, if in this, if there is 2, 4 in MFS,
Yeah.
is there a possibility that 1, 2, 4 can be a part of C3?
That's what I'm telling you. It is very important to understand a priori and then the candidate generation algorithm. Candidate, what we are checking, if we are having two sets, if you go back to your notebook, you check your a priori join function. What we are doing there, we are checking for the first, if the k is the first thing is, if you want to generate a new candidate item, so it is happening through our LK. LK is the frequent item set. Okay, so all the item set will be having the same size. That is the first thing. If I want to generate C3, I am referring this L2. So because it's L2, all the item set will be having the same size K. So if the item size is k, we are checking for the first k minus 1 items. Okay, so if you say this is 1, 2 and this is 2, 4, right? So first item is 1, first item is 2. So as per a priori self join, we cannot combine this because first item is not equal. So we won't proceed further. Okay, we always check for the first k minus 1 items based on their position. So if the first k minus 1 items are same, and then we check the last item of both. If one is less than the other, only then we are adding. Otherwise, it is not possible to generate the new item set. That's the reason I told you when first L becomes 1, 2, MS is 2, 4. We are comparing this 1 with 2, right? With the first k minus 1 items in L are also in M. So M is 2, 4, L is 1, 2. So because size is 2, k is 2, we are checking the first item. So this is 1, this is not equal. 1 is not equal to 2. Hence, we cannot generate 1, 2, 4. That's the beauty of the a priori self join. We are trying to avoid generating all possible candidate sets which are not at all required. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Yeah, this is I'm telling you from the beginning. You need to understand it. That's the basic a priori candidate generation, a priori frequent items, because that's the concept we are using in all further algorithm. That's the reason I've shown you 3 different examples. I've traced you in detail the a priori algorithm. So again, I'm stressing you, please go back. If you're not trace, please trace a priori, trace partition. Otherwise, it is difficult for you to understand this pincer search algorithm. Okay, and I don't think you're going to get any video where somebody is explaining you this pincer search in detail. You need to attend my class, or you need to go back to my recordings only to understand. It is not difficult. Okay, it is easy once you provided you understand. To understand, you need to listen and you need to do or try on your own once. Anyway, I'll be taking one complete database. I'll be tracing complete algorithm. Then it might be very clear to you. Okay, this is about the recovery. Next is, I told you we have 4 functions, right? We have called MFCS generation algorithm, we have called MFS prune, MFCS prune, and recovery. So recovery and MFCS generation I showed you. These are the other 2 functions. So please note down these 2. Again, there is a typo in the textbook with respect to the notation. I have corrected it. So please note down these 2 in your notebook. I'll also upload the original pincer search paper and 2 teams. You can go through that paper also if you want. So textbook, it is in Arun Pujari, not in Han and Camber. And Arun Pujari, there is some typos in the algorithm. And also they have traced one example in Arun Pujari. The tracing is also having some mistakes. Okay, so please refer to the algorithm whatever I am giving here in the class, and also trace the way I show you how to trace. Please don't refer the tracing that is given in the Arun Pujari textbook, because I refer the original paper of pincer search and I am discussing here. That's how I came to know there are errors. Okay. So we put so much of effort to take a class. That's the reason we tell you, it helps you if you listen to us in the class. because everything you won't get from the Google. But general explanation about pincer search, you can refer Arun Poojar. You'll come to know what is the general concept of pincer search. Okay. But for the code and for the tracing, you please refer whatever I'm doing in the class. So MFS prune means this is for maximal frequency for all items small l in LK. Again, LK is a frequent item set. L is a index into this. If L is subset of any item sets in the current MFS, then delete L from LK. So what is happening here actually? LK is from the bottom up and MFS from the top down, right? So if any item set that is present in LK is also there in MFS, MFS is maximal. Okay. So if it is a subset of MFS, then we are deleting that from LK. Why are we deleting that from LK? Because the moment we know that some maximal item set is frequent, then no need for us to check for all its subset in the bottom up search step. That's the reason we are deleting or we are removing those from the LK. So we call it as the MFS prune. So for all the items that are there in LK, if any item is subset of MFS, we remove that from LK. I'll just go back here. You can see, say for example here, MFS was 24, okay, and L2 also had 24. Now that 24 is MFS is here. So we have removed that 24 here, and I'm showing you this is after MFS prune. Okay. Then MFCS prune. So for all items C in CK plus 1, if C is not a subset of any item set in the current MFCS. MFCS is the maximal frequent candidate item. This is again from the top down. Okay, this CK plus 1 we are referring from the bottom up. This is from the top down. So if any of the item in CK plus 1, if it is not a subset in MFCS, then we can remove that from CK plus 1. That is called as the MFCS prune. I'll just go back. I'll show you this diagram once again here. Okay. This is CK, this is LK, here it is MFCS and we have MFS in between. If something is infrequent, we don't want to generate its supersets in the top down. Similarly here, if something is infrequent, we don't want to generate its subset here. That's what we are trying to do using this MFCS prune and MFS prune. So that's about the algorithm. Now you please refer your notebook. This is the algorithm I'm trying to trace now because I cannot frequently come back to the previous slide. It is difficult for you to understand. Now I hope all of you have noted down this algorithm in your notebook. Now let me trace this overall algorithm by taking this example. Okay. Are you able to see this? So you can note down this database. We have 4 transactions. First transaction contains ACD, second one BCE, third one ABCE, fourth one B. You can see this is, I have traced, this is my handwriting, I have scanned and I'm giving it to you so that you are able to understand, and it's possible for you also to do the same thing given some other or any other database. So minimum support sigma is given as 2 here. So minimum support threshold is 2. Okay, and this is the transaction. You can note down this database ACD, then BCE, then ABCE and BE. If you want, you can note down this, then I'll explain you this. This is A, B, C, D, E here. This is A, B, C, D, E. So I expect you to trace the same way, the way I have shown you here. You cannot skip any of the steps because each step carries certain marks or certain weightage. So whatever the algorithm I given you, the same thing I'm trying to trace so that you're able to understand it completely. Okay. So let me start. This is my database with 4 transactions. So please see your notebook. The initialization steps, what it says, L0 was empty, so I have written here L0 is empty. Then it says k equal to 1, so I written here k equal to 1. Then it says C1 equal to all the unique items, right? So in this example we have A, B, C, D and E. They are the 5 unique items. So C1 is A, B, C, D and E, right? Then it has S0 empty, so return S0 as empty set. Then it says MFCS is 1 to N. So MFCS is all the items. So A, B, C, D, E. Here N is 5 because we have 5 items. So MFCS contains only one item right now with 5 items A, B, C, D, E, and then MFS is empty. MFS is empty. So this is the initial part that I have given in the algorithm. You can see same thing I have written here. Okay. So please refer your notebook, the initialization part of the algorithm, and you are able to see the same thing here. Then while CK is not empty, right? Our C1 is not empty. So we enter into our while loop. So within while loop, what we have, it says read the database and count the support of CK and MFCS, right? That's the first statement inside your while loop. So I'll read the database. For example, here. So I read A, so increment the count of A, then I have C here, increment the count of C, I have D here, increment the count of D. Then check, because we need to count the support count of CK as well as MFCS, right? MFCS is having A, B, C, D, E. So check whether this transaction is having A, B, C, D, E, no. So A, B, C, D count remains 0 and I'll increment the count of A, C and D. So like that, I'll be reading these transactions one by one. Whenever any item is there, simply increment its counter in C1. So once I read all these transactions, you can see the support. So support of A is 2 because A is there in the first and the third transaction, right? Similarly, the count of B is 3. B is supported by second, third and fourth transaction. Similarly, you can see given the count of other items, that is C, D and E. And also none of the transactions contain the item A, B, C, D, E together. Hence, you can see here MFCS ABCD count is 0. Is this clear? Read the database and count the support for CK and MFCS. So I counted the support for CK. So K is 1. So count the support of C1 and the MFCS. So count of MFCS is 0. And here I have given the support of each of the items that are present in C1. Okay. Then the next step, it says that MFS is MFS union frequent items that are present in MFCS. Right now, the MFCS, the count is 0. Nothing is frequent. So MFCS remains still empty here. That is after the second step that is present in the while loop. Fine. Are you with me? So next statement says LK. LK is the frequent item sets of size 1, right? So here it is L1. So now we have the count in CK and the minimum support given is 2. So the items that are equal to or greater than 2 will be shifted to L1. You can see here A, B, C and E. They are greater than or equal to 2. So they become our frequent item set of size 1. Hence now L1 contains A, B, C and E, and this D is infrequent. Why it is infrequent? Because its support is 1 and minimum support threshold is 2. This is less than 2. Hence we move D to this S1, right? They are the statements. If you look into your while loop, LK is frequent K minus 1 item set and SK is infrequent item sets in CK. So CK, we have only one infrequent item set D, that is a part of S1, and remaining items are frequent and they become the part of L1. Is this clear up to here? You just note down, see your algorithm that is there in your notebook. Okay, I'm doing the same thing, following the same steps. So after LK and CK, next step, what it says, call MFCS gen algorithm if SK is not empty. Okay, now K is 1, you can see here, our S1 is not empty. So because it is not empty, we need to call this MFCS generation algorithm. And this MFCS generation. So now what happens? Our MFCS is A, B, C, D, E, and once you call this MFCS generation algorithm, our MFCS becomes A, B, C, E. Okay, next. It's clear how am I getting this? You just check into your MFCS generation code. I'll just tell you now. So for all items S in SK, right? For all item S in SK, now we have only one item. So small S will contain this D. Then for all items M in MFCS. So MFCS also we have only one item, that is A, B, C, D, E, and small m will point to this A, B, C, D, E. Okay, I have not written these steps. If you want to, yeah, you can write down them. I'm telling you now. So S contains D and M points to this A, B, C, D, E. Okay, then it says if S is subset of M. What is S? S is D and M is A, B, C, D, E. So this D is subset of this A, B, C, D, E. So if S is subset of M, MFCS is MFCS divided by M. So MFCS is A, B, C, D, E. M also A, B, C, D, E. So if you perform that step, MFCS divided by M, then our MFCS becomes empty here. Fine. So next step, it says that for all items E belongs to S. Right now we have only one item in SD. So the small e contains or points to this item D. What it says? If M by E is not a subset, M is A, B, C, D, E. So A, B, C, D, E divided by this D will get A, B, C, E. Okay. And that A, B, C, E is not a subset of MFCS. Why it is not subset of MFCS? Because MFCS has become empty in our previous step. So if it is not, then what are we doing? We are telling MFCS equal to MFCS union M by E. So MFCS was empty, union M by E. M by E is A, B, C, E. That's how I'm getting this MFCS as A, B, C, E here. You please see that MFCS generation algorithm you have written in your notebook and try to write all those steps in your notebook. Once again, I repeat. So here we call MFCS generation algorithm. Now you look into your notebook for the function MFCS gen. It says For all item sets, S belong to SK. So S belong to SK. Now S we have only one item, that is D. So small s points to D. Then for all items set M belong to MFCS. So MFCS is MF A, B, C, D, E. So small m is pointing to here. Okay, our S is D, our M is A, B, C, D, E, and our MFCS is A, B, C, D, E. So it says MF, if S is subset of M, if D is subset of A, B, C, D, yes, D is subset of this. What are we doing? MFCS equal to MFCS by M. So MFCS is A, B, C, D, E, and M is also A, B, C, D, E. So now MFCS becomes MT here. Then next step in that, it says for all item E which belongs to item set S. So item set S contains only one item now. So small e pointing to this D. So for all item E belong to S, what are we doing? If M by E is not a subset of any item set in MFCS. What is M here? M is A, B, C, D, E, and what is E? E is D, right? So M by E. So M is A, B, C, D, E, and this E is D. So A, B, C, D, E divided by this D gives me A, B, C, E. So the result of M divided by E is A, B, C, E. Next step, what we're checking? If it is not a subset of any item in MFCS. So the previous step, MFCS has become empty. So ABCE is not a subset of empty set. So what are we doing next step? MFCS equal to MFCS union M divided by E. That's how MFCS I'm getting here as ABCE. Any doubts, anyone? So please note that I not written. I want you to note down in your notebook. That's the reason purposely I not given the step, but I am telling you twice. I told you, right, how the MFCS gen works for these sets. Okay, so then we get this MFCS as ABCE. Is this fine? Any doubts? Anyone not able to understand? If not, let me quickly show you. So MFCS generation for all item sets S in SK, right? So that is our small index S, sorry. So this is the S which is pointing to this D. So small s is D now. For all items set S in SK, for all items M in MFCS. So what is M? This is my small m. M is pointing to this A, B, C, D, E now. Okay. If S is subset of M, if S is D, is subset of M. So right now for this example, M is nothing but it is equal to MFCS because we have only one item in our MFCS. Okay. So that's the reason I'm saying M is equal to MFCS here. You need to write M equal to ABCD. Okay. M is same as MFCS right now. If S is subset of M, if this D is subset of this M, then MFCS is MFCS divided by M. So MFCS is ABCDE, M is also ABCDE, right? So ABCD divided by ABCD cancel. So we are left with empty set for this MFCS. So MFCS becomes empty at this stage. Next, for all item E in item set, yes. Now S is having only one item D, so that's the reason. Now this index E is also same as this. Yes, So this E is pointing to this D itself. Okay. So E, what are we doing? If M by E we are doing. What is M here? M is A, B, C, D, E and E is D. So A, B, C, D, E divided by D gives me A, B, C, E. This is my M by E. So M by E is not a subset of any item set in MFCS. So MFCS has become empty. So this ABCE is not subset of that. So what am I doing now? MFCS equal to MFCS union M by E. MFCS is empty. Union M by E. M by E is ABC. So it gives me the answer as ABCE and hence my MFCS is now A, B, C, E. Okay. Yeah. So we call the again I'll go back to our main algorithm. Call MFCS algorithm if SK is not equal to empty. So we call this and we are able to get this MFCS as A, B, C, E. So it says that if we find any frequent items in MFCS, we need to move it to MFS. Right now, this is not a frequent, so we cannot move anything to MFS here. Let us continue further. Next, it tells me call MFS prune, right? Call MFS prune. So look into MFS prune algorithm in your notebook. It says for all items sets L in LK, okay? So I'll go back. What is our LK? LK is L1, right? L is now A, B, C, E. It says for all L in LK, if L is subset of any item set in the current MFS, we know that our current MFS is empty. Okay. So A, B, C. So none of these items that are there in L can be subset of this MFS. So condition is false, right? If L is subset of any item set in the current MFS, then you delete that L from LK. Right now MFS is empty. So A, B, C, E is our L1. So they cannot be subset of this. So we cannot remove them from L1. Hence I've written here is MFS prune I'm calling. There is no effect of this pruning because our MFS is empty. Okay, that is MFS prune. So next it tells me generate candidate CK plus 1 from LK. It is similar to our a priori, right? That's what is there in the algorithm. So generate C2 from L1. So what is this? Is nothing but the self join operation of a priori. So this is L1. How do I get C2? AB, AC, AE, then BC, BE, then CE. These are my C2 that I am able to get from L1 self join with L1. What are they? I repeat, AB, AC, AE, then BC, BE followed by CE. So same thing written here. So my C2 generate C2 from L1. So C2 is AB, AC, AE, BC, BE and CE. Fine. That is my C2. So what is in the algorithm next? Generate candidate CK plus 1 from LK that we are able to do. Next it tells that if any frequent item in LK is removed in MFS pruning procedure, whether we have removed anything from LK in MFS prune. So now MFS prune has no effects. We have not removed anything from L1, right? So hence we cannot call the recovery. So written here recovery is not called. So please note how I am tracing. Okay. So every step I am giving you in detail here. So recovery we are not called here. Next statement in the algorithm, it says call MFCS prune procedure to prune candidates in CK plus 1. So what is there in MFCS prune? This is our C2. Please look into the algorithm of MFCS prune. What is given in MFCS prune? For all items C in CK plus 1. So small c will be indexed into this C2 now. Okay, first time C will be AB, then AC, then AE and so on. So C is an index into this C2. Okay, what it says? For all items set C in CK plus 1, if C is not a subset of any item set in the current MFCS, then delete that from CK plus 1. If C is not a subset of MFCS. So what is my MFCS? I'll go back and show you. MFCS is here, right? It is A, B, C, E. So AB is a subset of ABCE. AC is a subset of ABCE. AE is subset of ABCE. BC is subset BE, right? All these items are subset of our MFCS. So it is not possible for us to remove any one of them from C2. Hence, written MFCS prune has no effect because all these items that are present in C2 are subset of MFCS, that is A, B, C, E. Hence, we are not removing or deleting anything from this C2. Okay. Again, after calling MFCS prune, it says K equal to K plus 1. So now I incremented the value of K by 1. Now K is 2. Again, I'll go back to my while loop. It says while CK is not empty. Now CK, K is 2, C2 is not empty. Again, come inside while loop and repeat the procedure. So I'll stop here. If any doubts, you can ask me. Otherwise, you please try to complete this. I've shown you for one step, right? Similarly, you need to trace the same while loop, same set of statements, same set of functions. So try to complete this. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the next. Otherwise, I'll show you the remaining part of this algorithm in the next class. But before I show you, I discuss with you, I want you to give it a try from your side. Try once. Okay, you have algorithm in your notebook, your database. So till here I have shown you. So after this, you can note down this if you want. After this, you please try to trace and try to complete this. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the next class. Because if you don't try, you will not understand what is happened. That's the reason I'm telling you. I want you to trace on your own once. Anyway, I'll show you this next class. I'll complete this tracing. It is not that I'll not showing you the tracing, but before that, because if you try your once, you will know where exactly is the problem for you in tracing, where you are struck in case if you are struck. So that you can ask me your doubts and then we can continue in the next class. So next class is on Thursday, right? So first 1 hour I'll be taking the class. I'll be completing this pincer search. So after that, last half an hour, we will be going for our quiz. So please note that when your quiz is using MS Forms, you need to explicitly click on your submit button within that time. If you don't submit, it is now you are not going to get, you will be losing the quiz marks. It will be 0 marks, right? So please note that first 1 hour I'll be taking a class, last half an hour it is a quiz. So please complete the tracing of this. You have 2 more days to go and algorithm is there in your notebook. Fine. Then this tracing, whatever I done so far is also there in your notebook, right? So please complete the algorithm. Any doubts you can ask me. If you have no doubts, you may leave the meet. So please see that you need to study from the textbook also for the quiz, assignment or exam or test. The class recording or the PPT is not enough. Please make it a point to read from the textbook also. Okay. And those who have doubts, you can stay back and ask me your query. Others, you may leave the meet. Okay, nobody is asking me doubts. In that case, I'll end this class.